How's it going, everyone? Paul with Adaptable Survival. Today's episode, let's go through 5 axe skills that we need to master for the outdoors. So inevitably, if you're getting geared up to get outdoors, whether that's to do bushcraft, learn wilderness survival skills, outdoor skills, whatever term you choose to describe what's getting you outdoors and the skills that you're trying to accomplish, essential to that task is some sort of gear in that learning. In today's video, we're going to be using this Beaver Bushcraft or Beaver Craft camp hatchet that they sent me. Now, I've seen tons of reviews on this, both good, bad, and indifferent. I don't really have a take on this because I just got this probably within the last week or so. So we are going to use it in today's video to kind of see how it performs. And then in a month or two, we will knock out a more long-term review of this little pack axe. So quick vernacular for different terms for axes. You'll hear hatchets, camp axe, pack axe, all sorts of things. Moving forward with the channel, what we're really going to look at, the two different categories are a pack axe, which is, you could throw hatchet in there, something up to maybe 16 inches, but basically we're talking about anything smaller. And then the camp axe is going to be anything larger, and that's in terms of handle length. I think the handle length on this one is 12 inches. Don't quote me, I haven't looked at the specs in the last couple days at all, so I'm not 100% sure. But we're talking in those two terms: a pack axe, anything smaller than 16 inches, camp axe, anything larger. Let's dive into the 5 skills we need to master with our axe. So the number one skill, now, so it can be very layered, but for this video, what we're going to knock out is number one is safety. Using any sort of axe, whether that's a pack axe or a camp axe, has some inherent risks that can be, very small up to life-threatening. For this first skill, obviously leaving the masks still on the hatchet while I demonstrate this, but number one is we want to be aware of what's around us while we're working with this axe, or hatchet, whatever terminology you want to go with. It's going to be extremely important that we watch for other people we may be working around. So as we are coming down on something, that's not coming down back into our leg, or if we're chopping something, that once we get through that tree or whatever we may be cutting, that doesn't go pass through and hit someone else. The easiest way to think about this, and you can think about this with a knife as well, is you have that axe out in front of you in a 360-degree circle. So for me, that's going to be, my wingspan's about 6 feet. So about 6 feet in diameter all around with my wingspan is what I am being cognizant of. I don't want to have a mishap while I'm processing something that causes an injury to myself or someone else, that now we have to address that, and we may be back out in the woods, a couple miles out, possibly even farther, depending on the trip we're going on. So the second skill we want to knock out is felling a tree. Now with felling a tree, it's going to be very dependent on the axe you have. We're working with a pack axe today, so we're going to be very limited on the size of tree we're going to try and take down. Number one being is, I don't want to use something that's not really designed to be taking down very large trees. If I try to do that with this, I'm going to expend tons of calories, going to be working, putting a lot of work into that when I could have brought something more applicable to that job. So the tree that I found here, now this is a very, very small one, but it sets up ideally for what I wanted to show, is if I'm going to come to cut this smaller tree down for whatever task I may want it for, I'm going to want to come down at an angle to chop this tree down. And I'm going to zoom in here in a second. We'll look at that. But as you can see here, this is an outgrowth from a more main part of the tree. Upside of that is, as I cut through this, it's going straight into some other trees, so I'm not too concerned with that passing through and potentially hitting someone else or coming back to me, onto me by some free chance. So we can see I'm zoomed in here, and just want to come through, take off some of these thorns off this locust. Last thing you want to do is catch some of those thorns. But obviously this one's pretty dead, so that's going to have a huge impact on how this cuts down. But as you see how I'm working with this, there's nothing in the area where this axe can hit on my own personal body. So going back to skill number 1, we're implementing that safety. Now if I'm going to come in here and I want to cut it down closest to the base as I can, I'm going to start off coming down at a downward angle, getting some of those cuts in there. And then I can come up from the bottom and chip away at this. So as you see, we're slowly eating away at the bottom of here. Now obviously once I get this to a certain point, I should be able to snap it off, but I'm just going to continually come in here and essentially beaver chew at one angle into that tree. And you can see just by a little bit of force, since this is so dead, I can easily break this off. Now I hung up at the top there, and now that gives me a clean break here just by simply chewing through that. And I probably could have snapped that off by itself with how dead it is, but to just demonstrate that effective downward angle, cutting into the tree, and then coming more of a straight on angle to slowly chip away at this. So if this was a larger diameter piece of wood, we would just continue that process. Obviously, with this being a little bit wonky, not the easiest, but the main goal is showing you that concept of essentially cutting an L into that tree. So for our third skill, let's talk about splitting wood. Now obviously with this piece, I cut this with a saw. You're not getting this kind of clean edges with an axe. But through the course of what we're doing, we're ensuring that safe usage, that nothing is around us that can be penetrated by the axe, causing a severe injury. We've talked about felling a tree. So if we were to process firewood or getting stuff for projects, now let's talk about splitting this down. Now there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. Now you can see here we're working on the ground. We're not standing up, swinging down. This is going to reduce any chances of this axe coming back into our leg. So all I'm going to do is lay that piece of wood down, and I'm coming in here and getting a nice solid puncture chop into that wood. And I'm just gonna work it in. And I'm just pounding the wood, and you can see that this is splintering off. Let me get this a little bit closer here. So we can see just by hammering away. Now, if we were trying to keep this centered, obviously this isn't the best method to do this, but if we're just splitting this down for firewood, to make feather sticks, anything like that, this is perfectly fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So let's come back over here. And what we could actually do, since we have it here, we can start turning this to split that out. Now, we got one smaller piece. We're just going to readjust. Get lined back up. I already have a crack there. I do have a knot here that I'm staying cognizant of. And I'm just going to start causing some splitting, and then I can simply come through rinse and repeat that same process of knocking it in there and then turning that piece of wood to splinter off whatever I may need. So the fourth skill that we're going to talk about is control. Now we split this down to some more manageable pieces if we're starting to process this for firewood. One of the things that we can do is use our pack axe or our camp axe to create feather sticks. If in the fantasized world that it's the axe is the only tool that we have. So with control, what I'm talking about is the grip you have on the axe. Now you can grab it just like this, like most people tend to, and start working with it. That's perfectly fine. You can get, have your thumb over the top to get that control. You can come in here, use 2 fingers to have that control. What I like to do is kind of a combination of the second and third grip that I showed. Is I like to get my thumb up on the back side and then have 1 finger up on the blade itself. For me, I find that gives me the most comfortable grip. And now I just come down here and start the process, finding that angle to create those shapings. And I haven't touched this edge at all. This is just a factory edge. So might be a little rough going with these feather sticks, but that's all right. They all burn the same. I ain't trying to be Instagram pretty over here. For me, I find a lot of times with feather sticks, it's just a matter of finding the right groove. And now we can see how this wood is reacting. This outer stuff that's really dead isn't really giving us the right, or giving us the easiest curls, where this inner stuff really is starting to give us that curls we want. So we just come in here and just keep hammering away at those. Like I said, I ain't trying to be all pretty with the post or anything. I'm always function over aesthetics. So you catch that with a lighter, that's going to start burning. That's the most important thing with those feather sticks. Now, these are pretty ugly, not going to lie. So for our fifth and final skill, we are going to do something not super sexy, not super bushcrafty, but is extremely important. And that is just sheathing our tool when we are done with it. A lot of times you'll find with people new to the outdoors, after they're done using a tool, they just set it down wherever they're working and forget to put their mask back on their axe, forget to close up their saw, forget to put their knife back in its sheath. Now, the main reason that's extremely important is not only does it keep you safe, but it may keep whoever else that may be out with you safe as well, because unbeknownst to them, they may put their hand down, they may kneel down, something may happen where that bladed edge goes into them, causing some sort of injury. And that's honestly some of the most important axe skills that you can get in the habit of learning and then just making a habit when you're outdoors. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list of all camp axe skills that you want to have. What I'm initially starting with this series is ways to learn extremely basic skills in a short format. Hopefully I keep this video pretty short, but I'm not 100% sure how long it's going to be. We'll work with it. Like I said, the two main difference that I kind of want to get across is a pack axe, which in terms of the name kind of resonates that it's packable, and a camp axe, which by the name of the word camp means a bigger axe, something that you would use around a base camp. So you can use either one. That's totally up to you. But we will dive into a series, future video, talking about hatchets, camp axes, pack axes, so forth and so on. But this is just a primer on some really basic skills, because I'm extreme believer in that if you master the basic skills, it'll serve you in 90 to 95% of the situations you find yourself in. Anything else is just extra fluff and great to learn, but may not be absolutely necessary. Do me a favor, down in the comment section down below, let me know what other axe skills that you want to see or that you use while you're outdoors. I'm always looking to learn from you, just as you're learning from me. That's what makes our community great. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That gets more eyes on the community that we're building here. Helps bring those people in so we can grow our knowledge base and learn together and grow together. As always, this has been Paul with Adaptable Survival. Adapt your mind, your body, and your gear.